Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are going to tackle a topic that, let's be honest, can feel super complicated: Google SEO. But don't you worry, because we're going to break it all down into a really simple, powerful framework that you can actually use. So let's just dive right in. Okay, so you've done the hard work. You built an amazing website. It looks incredible. It's packed with great stuff. But there's a huge problem. Nobody's finding it. It's like you built this beautiful, gleaming shop in the middle of a desert. And that's maybe one of the most frustrating things online. But believe me, there is a clear path out of it. And that path, well, it runs directly through Google. Why? Because look at this number. Over 92% of the entire search market belongs to them. So if you want to be found online, you gotta play by Google's rules. But it's not about tricking the system. It's about understanding what the system actually wants.
You know, the best way to think about Google is just as the world's biggest library. It has a catalog with trillions, and I mean trillions, of web pages. Now, here's the key. When you do a search, you're not actually searching the live internet. You're searching Google's copy of it, what they call their index. So SEO, search engine optimization, it's really just the art of making sure your website is not only in this massive library, but that it's featured right on the main display shelf for everyone to see.
So, before we can get you on that main display, we first need to understand, how do things even get into the library in the first place? It's a surprisingly logical four-step journey. First, Google sends out these little automated bots. People call them spiders, and they just crawl the web to discover new pages. Second, it processes these pages. It tries to figure out what they're about, pulling out key info, and basically looking at the page just like a person would. Third, and this is crucial, if the page is good enough, it gets stored or indexed in that giant library. Only indexed pages can even show up in search results. And finally, when you type in a search, Google's algorithm sorts through all those relevant pages in its index to give you the best possible answer. If you can understand this journey, you can start to influence it. Which brings us to our very first pillar, and honestly, it's the most important one of all. You've heard it a million times, I know, but it's just so true. Content is king. At the end of the day, all Google wants is to give its users great, relevant information. It all starts right there, with what is actually on your page. Okay, so what do you write about? The answer isn't just writing about what you think is cool. It's about finding that sweet spot, that intersection of what you're an expert in and what real people are actually searching for. You have to get inside the head of your audience. The difference here is all about intent. I mean, think about it. Someone searching for shoes, they could be looking for anything. The competition is insane. But a person searching for best running shoes for flat feet? Now that person has a very specific problem. They need a solution. This is what we call a long-tail keyword. When you create content for that specific need, you're not just facing way less competition, you're talking to someone who's ready to listen. So how do you really nail this search intent thing? Honestly, the best trick is to just go to Google yourself, search your phrase, and see what's already ranking on page 1. And as you look, check for these 3 C's: content type, content format, and content angle. I mean, if all the top results are how-to videos for beginners, writing a super technical article for experts probably isn't going to work. You got to give Google's users what they've already shown they want.
So if content is the king, then that makes our second pillar, links, the powerful queen. You can have the best content in the world, but if it's sitting there all alone, Google has no idea if it's valuable. Links are the signal that tells Google other people are vouching for you. It's how you build real authority.
And Google is pretty upfront about this. They basically say that when other well-known, respected websites link to your page, it's a massive signal that your information is high quality. It's like a vote of confidence. That website is essentially telling Google, hey, this page over here, it's legit. You should trust it.
But here's the thing. Not all votes are created equal. A link from a brand new blog nobody's heard of is not the same as a link from a major news site. We can kind of estimate a site's authority with a metric like domain rating, or DR. It's a score from 0 to 100, and a link from a site with a DR of, say, 90 is just worlds more powerful than one from a site with a DR of 10. That one single link from a big authoritative site can be worth more than hundreds of tiny, low-quality ones. So the goal is always quality over quantity. Finally, that brings us to our third pillar, technical SEO. So if content is the king and links are the queen, then technical SEO, that's the castle's engine room. It's all the stuff that happens under the hood to make sure Google can find your stuff, access it, and understand it with any problems. At its core, it really just boils down to 3 simple things. First, your site has to be fast, period. Nobody waits for a slow page to load. Second, it has to be secure, with HTTPS, that little lock symbol in the browser. And third,
it absolutely must be mobile-friendly, because let's face it, that's where most searches are happening these days.
Technical SEO also fixes these weird little issues that can confuse Google. For instance, to you, your website is just your website. But to Google, the www version and the non-www version look like two totally separate pages that have the exact same content on them. That's a problem, because it splits your authority, your link juice, in half. The fix is actually a simple bit of code called a canonical tag. It just tells Google, hey, out of all these different versions, this one is the master copy. Pay attention to this one.
And more recently, Google started measuring the actual feeling of using a web page with something called Core Web Vitals. Just think about what makes a website frustrating. First, how fast does the important stuff actually load on the screen? That's LCP. Second, as it's loading, does the layout jump all over the place, making you click the wrong thing? That's CLS. And finally, when you do click on something, how fast does the page respond? That's FID. Having a good user experience isn't just a nice little bonus anymore, it's a real ranking factor.
So we've covered the king, the queen, and the engine. Let's put it all together into one simple formula that you can take with you.
This is it. This is your roadmap. First, create relevant content that actually matches search intent. That's your king. Second, you go out and earn high-quality links, those authoritative votes of confidence. That's your queen. And third, you make sure your site's technical health is rock solid, fast, secure, and accessible. That's your engine. When you get all three of these pillars working together, your website is no longer invisible. It becomes a landmark.
And that brings us right back to where we started. Your website is built, your shop is open, but now you have the framework to make sure you're not in some desert, but right in the middle of a bustling city, ready for your audience to find you.